Yes, welcome to the Optimal Health Talk with Dr. Obinna. We are trying to redesign your health with knowledge and the connections. Despite my zeal of trying, everybody trying to tell me to follow my heart and let the shifting cloud of social media algorithms, I've been trying to do this for a long time. Every time I follow the often automated manipulative algorithm of other social media, it kind of, I'm always biting my tongue one way or the other, and then so it's been a little bit of a while. So welcome to Optimal Health Talk with Dr. Obinna, where we are going to be diving straight into the arts and science of a healthier you and more intentional life. I am Dr. Obinna Eleweanya. I am going to be walking this journey with you. I said it's an art and science because it is just due to the wisdom of over decades. I've been a doctor for so many years from my roots in Nigeria. I trained as a medical doctor from University of Nigeria College of Medicine, worked in Jamaica and Cayman Islands. But I realized there is something missing about the fundamentals. We're always talking about control, instead of cure. And the whole thing is that there is something I believe that we are lacking, that is just not hitching on the fundamentals of health change, and we are now beginning to witness a renaissance in the digital and informational age. So here I am. I'm trying to make sure as a doctor I bring that to your bedrooms and to your boardrooms and to your living rooms. We have seen different things come from different parts of the world, from the Amazon forest to the Tibetan mountains, and we are beginning to see that some of the things our ancient forefathers knew, we are now finding out. So in 2021, I decided to go formally to train as a lifestyle medicine physician with the British Society of Lifestyle Medicine, American Board of American College of Lifestyle Medicine. I got certified. So I have woven the whole of the so-called pillars of lifestyle medicine, which you're going to find out into what I call the mount, muscle, and mind. Health does not come as a vacuum. We have seen so much happen in our body. And in fact, in 2023, the Nobel Prize of Physics, I must tell you guys, was won by the quantum entanglement. It's physics, but it tells us for once that all of us are interconnected. There is nothing about individualization. We did not drop from the sky. And there have been groundbreaking discoveries that have made it very, very important for us to understand some of those things that we are now appreciating, that are responsible for our lifespan on earth. We are very, very, it's very, very important for us to understand this, because guess what? We might be wondering why. It is driven by this, that all of the things that I want to talk to you, I'm going to be talking to you from the heart. So it is something that you have to appreciate. Our brain is perhaps the newest version in all of this. Our brain distinguish the neocortex distinguishes us from other animals. It makes us so unique, and we're indeed a reflection of the creative mind, that ancient scriptures and ancient texts have talked about. And so there is something about us that is unique in this grand cosmic scene. We should not just leave it to chance. So our brain is a creator's purity and a reflection on us, and we cannot ignore it. And that's one area that we are going to try to bring into existence. In this podcast, we are going to be exploring the concepts of the mouth, which are the things that you eat. They call it diet. I don't like to use the word diet. I think it's just a little bit of an exotic word to use. It is the mouth, muscle, and mind, and they will show how small, deliberate changes that you can make can redesign your health and build a lifestyle that aligns with your own, very importantly, your own socioeconomic realities. And so it makes it important for you to know about the concepts that are involved in it. So if we begin to talk about the fact that you also talk about muscle, the muscle is what is also called exercise in some books. It's not exercise, it's just the imperatives, the fundamentals are clear. It's about the attribute of man, that the energy management systems of our cells require that when you bring in the fuel, you have to burn it. It's not something you just keep bringing. Even our batteries, the batteries of our phone, if you bring in those fuels, you're going to have to need to burn it. And so we need to continuously harmonize between the intake and output in our body. So physical activity is what our muscles use to try to burn those things. And if you're joining me from any part of the world, I'm asking you right now to begin to take your pen and paper. This is just an introduction of what we are going to be doing in the next few months. It's not that I'm not beginning to delve into the fundamentals and to the fine details of what we're going to do. I just want to give you an idea of what we'll be doing in the next few months and years, and perhaps anytime you tell me to stop, I stop. However, as you are continuously supporting this venture, I want you to listen because I want to delve into the understanding, because my mantra is that knowledge is the beginning of healing. So if knowledge is the beginning of healing, your understanding of the hows and the whats and the whys of everything that is happening in your body becomes a very important aspect of you taking your health in your hands. My job is just simply to explain those fundamentals in a way that you will appreciate how very, very intentionally made our bodies. Our body was made with everything you can think about. It is made to be self-sustaining. It is intended to be self-healing. It is self-cleaning, and it is also, we now realize, have the capacity to actually live forever. Let me talking about aging. We know that the single cell organisms do not age. Let's look at amoebas, for instance, and bacteria. They will keep multiplying and split into daughter cells and keep without deteriorating. These single cell organisms never lose the ability to proliferate. They just keep going and going. On the other hand, human cells only have the ability to divide up to 50 to 70 times, depending. It's called Herflick's limit before they die. So why does this happen? So why do we have to be limited? So you're going to stick with me because we are going to delve into some of the factors that we are going to determine that is causing this. And some of them is not by pure our original intent, our precept was that we are supposed to be like all those cells. We are supposed to live forever. So what is the thing that happened? So these are the teasers that I'm going to try to bring on as we delve into this process. The mind component of this is that I will show you that the mind is the most important component of healthy living, because the intention of the brain, which is, like I said, a reflection of the creative mind, is to harmonize whatever is happening inside of us with what is happening outside through our senses, through sensations. And then it is the neocortex that brings about what we now say is our perception of what is going on. And that duality eventually is what created the rumpus that we now call stress, because it is that analytical mind, the judgment, the language, the emotions that is now what has created that dented into the purity of the intent of our creation and created stress. And as we are going to go along, we are going to realize that stress has its hand in almost every known non-communicable disease that is responsible for 80% of mortality of us as human race. So we will be talking about some of those factors, and we are going to explore those concepts in a way that is grounded in evidence, and it's going to be evidence based, that you can cross check, which is why I want you to take your pen and paper as you keep talking with me, that this evidence is what has been happening across the world. It is not a unique attribute of any particular place, any particular person. This has been happening from the Indo-Chinese to the South Americans, to the Incas and Mayas, to the African subcontinent, and to also a lot of persons in the Americas. There have been so many groundbreaking things all the way from ancient civilizations that are now being made open, and we are looking into it through the lenses of the tools we have now. We have so much tools that we are looking at almost everything. That's why the Nobel Prize winning scientists, epigenetics, won Nobel Prize in 2012. It tells us that our genes are no longer sacrosanct, that our genes can be modified by our own environment, and that is the same mouth, muscle, and mind. In 2009, we found out that at the edge of the codons, which is the DNA of our genes, that there was something that can be manipulated, that there was something called telomeres. And these telomeres, just like the gene itself, is the stop button that helps to navigate the way our cells divide, and it shortens every time the cell divide. And it has telomeres that repair it as it shortens. However, as we also being influenced by the environment, our mouth, our muscle, and our mind, the rate at which this repair happens becomes less and less as we age, and we have therefore have the capacity to repair it. And in 2009 to 2012, the Human Genomic Project was completed, which tells us about every single gene in our body has now. We now understand how they proliferate. And in 2016, we now know the science of autophagy, which tells us that we have the capacity. The Nobel Prize of Medicine and Physiology in 2016 was won by the science of autophagy, which tells us that our body have the innate capacity to clean itself. So we have all these sciences, we have these evidences sitting that is now telling us that the choice, the healthy choice, the choice to live longer, the choice to live healthier, the capacity to do that is in our hands. So, in this podcast, one of the things we are going to be talking about, I'll be talking with some experts when I have the opportunity and have the capacity to bring them in. I will be talking with some of these people, and we are going to welcome Chidi. Okay, we're going to try to bring some of those factors into discussion for you to expose those concepts, that you understand that the science is there, the capacity is innate. Our homeostasis, physiological homeostasis, has established the fact that we have the capacity to be self healing, we have this capacity to self sustain. We now, by autophagy, science of autophagy, we now have come to self clean. And so, why is it that we keep making ourselves limited? We are limitless. We have the capacity. And with quantum entanglement, one winning the Nobel Prize in 2023, it means it has been established that we are a ball of energy, which Albert Einstein and Max Planck, when they discarded the Newtonian particulate theory and now said the atom, the smallest particle on Earth, is not a physical particle, but an energy. And that means that the carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen that make up our body is energy. And so we are a ball of energy. And so with quantum entanglement, it became very clear that we are connected to the greater cosmos. So every ancient religion, every ancient civilization knew this. And we now understand that medical science have been dragging themselves back. They are not trying to let you know that there is a greater connection between you and the cosmos. So we can control what goes into our mouth. We can control how we use the physical energy in our body. But there is one that connects us to the greater cosmos that we must be aware of. So in science, the mind is controlled, is actually a currency of our brain, the neocortex. And science have told us that the neocortex, if you look at the way the baby was formed, anybody who sees that is a marvel. And that's why I look at my colleagues and people who do not want to acknowledge the fact that we are not just something that is embodied in a physical body. When that cell, the sperm, meets the egg, there is a discharge of zinc which causes a light, an energy transformation, and that stops every other sperm, millions and millions of them, from ever coming into that cell. And so once that cell fertilizes, no other sperm can penetrate that ova. That is an energy transformation. And from then, we do not realize it. That is when the physiological processes that eventually become us. It starts from two cells that eventually bind us to four to eight, and then it becomes a real ball of a squish of about maybe 240 something cells. And these 240 some cells can still be squished. Suddenly, A little streak comes on top of it that becomes what is called the notochord. We now understand the notochord is what becomes the brain and the spinal cord. From thence, it takes charge and begins to tell the cells to begin to change, to go to any part that they want to. It is at that point that the cells, through the process we now determine to be epigenetics, begin to become either the hand, the eyes. The brain is the most important organ. When it forms, it actually begins to bring one little speck on top of it that invariably becomes our eyes. So, by intention, by precept, the brain was made to begin to take charge of every other cell in the body. It uses the eyes because the eyes is the direct outpouch of the brain. So the brain uses the eyes to see what is happening in the external environment and begin to use it to harmonize what is going on under the direction of the genes. So you see that this cannot be by chance. So we are by Nobel Prize of 2023 acknowledging for the first time of quantum entanglement that every single thing in the earth on earth and in the universe are connected. Then we now know that there's a greater force, a creative mind that is responsible for this. We in medical science have ignored this for a long time. And that, my friends, as you follow me, we are going to unravel some of the majestic, important things on how our body can function efficiently and why we are unlimited. We should not limit ourselves. And so, talking about longevity, I am a student of aging. But the process of aging ranks with sleep. I must tell you, you'll be surprised. Sleep is one of those things I take very, 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 very dearly. It is one of those fundamental mysteries of human biology. So, what causes the body to slow down, and then how these cells begin to stop dividing, begin to degenerate, and begin to fall prey to some of these illnesses and disability? That is what we are going to continuously unravel in the next episodes of this. We know that everything that God, I must acknowledge that, had intended for us, the precept of it that is that we live forever. So these are some of the teasers of what we are going to walk through in this journey. We are going to recognize that you are not a separate entity, but a part of a larger universal whole. You are a part of a grand cosmic scheme. You are connected not just to yourself, but to the earth, to the cosmos, and to all living things, all things bright and beautiful that were created just like us. We are connected to them. You must therefore treat yourself and others with respect, kindness, and compassion. You should also acknowledge that you have a unique purpose. You did not just drop down here to drink alcohol and party and go to school and earn PhD and just become a rot that will eventually go back to earth. You are going to try and achieve those purposeful potentials that you are here for and express them. You are not here by accident of nature, but you're a deliberate creative energy that was done with a higher intelligence. And it is said that we are a reflection of that intelligence in this little bubble encased in the skull called the cerebral neocortex. Find and chase that your unique position in this grand cosmic scheme. And that is one of the things we are going to be talking about as we move on and understanding how your genes, which are the codes that created your uniqueness. There is nobody in the 10 point something billion people that live on earth that have the same fingerprint. Our genes are unique. Every single one of us, even identical twins. Now, the Human Genomic Project was completed in 2009 to 2013, and we now understand that the genes, despite all we think we can only unravel just about 10% of it. We do not know what the other 90% of our genes, the codons, are doing. That 10% that is known is what makes us, we now understand. So the other 90%, where is it? What does it do? So I want us to know, and that is the fact that when these genes are the things that continuously drive our growth, they also drive our healing and repair, and they can become dysfunctional. And it is when they become dysfunctional that they lead to acceleration of aging and then bring in these disease conditions and, of course, death. My job in this paradigm is to begin to guide you on a path to understand those fundamentals. Because I did a course in University of Reading in Netherlands. If you understand the fundamentals that drive across about 1.5 million years of evolution, there has not been little or no change. It's only in the last 200,000 years that chromosome number 2 began to change because there's a fusion in it. And it is so unique because that's when our brain was eventually created. I call it creation because I know it was something that we did not do ourselves. It was not an evolution. It is then that language, complex language, emotions, all the things that distinguishes us from other animals emanated from that. So, by understanding these fundamental molecular and biological mechanisms that not only drive growth but are responsible for these diseases, you can begin to take charge of your own health. And you are going to be your health coach. My intention is for you to learn so much, to be so much, and to agree with me in so many ways by also doing your own diligence because we are going to use evidence based science. That you will understand why those little changes that I will be asking and you will be making in your life can drive you towards the best version of yourself. So you are going to cultivate capacities for other factors, like I said. It is not just about the physical form of our body, which is disposable, but the empathy and compassion and the psychological and, of course, some of the other self regulations that we are going to ask you for our mental health. Because without your mental health being balanced, there is nothing your physical body, because we are a ball of energy. It is just the harmonization. That is why the brain continuously try to harmonize all the energy balance in our body. So when sometimes when you're feeling ill, you may not know that it is actually the homeostatic balancing mechanisms of our body that is trying to adjust to accommodate some of the changes that are happening that make us feel the way we feel. Now, a young man called Lochatalia in the physical form, Lochatalia in people who did chemistry will tell you. He says when a system is of equilibrium, whenever there is a change in one component of a system in equilibrium, the system will begin to adjust to accommodate or reject that change. And that is exactly what our body does, except that in human form we call it homeostasis. So our body is constantly trying to harmonize and change some of those things that would have otherwise caused us harm. And it is those changes that sometimes bring the symptoms, whether the mental, physiological, or even emotional symptoms that we call disease. If you understand the implications and the import and understand those changes as they happen on a cellular molecular basis. That is why I believe that knowledge is the beginning. I call it the knowledge is the beginning of healing. And that is what I am going to be trying to drive in this forum and in this paradigm. Every week, I will try to at least post something in my podcast. I may not be able to do it as often as I can, but in this early phase, this is exactly what we are going to try to achieve. I want you to appreciate the beauty and diversity of the universe and the wonders of your own existence. You are part of a magnificent natural state of harmonious balance, and you have a role to play. The latest in neuroscience, because neuroscience is beginning to unravel a lot. We have tools now that were not available. Before, it used to be just CT scans. We now have functional MRIs. We now have electroencephalograms called EEGs. And now there is one called magnetoencephalogram. We are beginning to pick up how our brain and our systems are adjusting to the energy changes. And we now understand fully that it is not just about thinking of yourself. You must develop love, because love is one of the most important attributes of humans. And if you can cultivate that capacity for empathy and also include the feeling of gratitude, because gratitude is now known to also be associated with changes in our hormones, changes in our body that harmonizes other aspects of our health. So you see, we are not just going to be discussing just the physical components of our health. And like I said, my mantra is the mouth, the muscle, and the mind. And so the mind component, there are so many things you can go in the internet and talk about the mouth and the muscle exercise and all of that. But that I will be expanding from a different perspective, from a fundamental perspective that will make it easy for you to appreciate and therefore by self efficacy make those changes, especially according to your own unique socio-economic and socio-cultural paradigm, because that's what has been the biggest problem in the current paradigm of medical science. We throw away most of this advice. Hey, go and have exercise or go and eat food. But that's the point. There are so many, so much unique components of it for every human being. And unless you understand the fundamentals of the little components so that you can do this yourself, that is what is called self efficacy. So we want you to also appreciate the beauty and diversity of the universe and the wonders of your existence. And so try to embrace the power of gratitude and therefore celebrate your role in it. So I want to thank you today for joining me. And I'm going to ask you that you continue to listen out for the Optimal Health Talk by Dr. Obinna. And together, let us embark on this journey with purpose, vitality, and deep connections to ourselves and each other in the vast and mysterious universe that we live in. I'm going to thank you today for listening because like I said, this is one of the first times I'm a little nervous on this, but I know with time we are going to continuously expound some of the things that I have talked about today. And you are going to appreciate the fact that there is beauty and diversity in the universe and the wonders of your existence, that you are part of a magnificent natural state of harmonious creation and have a role to play in it. And you must embrace it. And you must live a life and celebrate that role in it. And then I'll see you next time.